when you don't have an idea and when you don't have resources, one of the best things to do, copy.
What was the secret behind?
Product is culture.
How you overcame this bureaucracy?
I made a lot of mistakes in terms of management and so on. But I was very clear on my vision.
And if someone really special will leave the company, well, that's a question.
Oh my God, this is amazing. We can solve every single problem. He said, no, you can't.
Hi everyone, guys, it's без вот этого вот всего with you, and today the second time we're talking in English, and we are pretty happy to have amazing guests here in the studio. With us today is the CEO of Magnit OMNI, Guvenc Donmez. Guvenc, hi, great for having you here. And before we will start, thanks a lot to our sponsors, to the Aston. If you are really looking for the best developers on the Russian market, you have to come to the Aston, and they will definitely help you with that. Let's start. Let's start with you. We will talk a lot today about your entrepreneurial experience and your work with the corporations. But first, I'm really curious on how it all started and how did you initially get into the world of these big corporations? So before what? Before the Samsung or before the very first point of your work?
Yeah, I first of all, pleasure to be here. And I started my career in Turkey. But before that, I was always a high achiever in the school. So when I was entering the university exams in Turkey, I was third in math and science scores. So I was always like trying to achieve or outbeat the competition and so on. So, it was obvious for me to go to one of the top corporations. And I was choosing between actually McKinsey and Procter Gamble to start my career. And I was also very, very lucky in the beginning of my career. I think it's important for the people in their early careers. I had a mentor. As of age of 19. It just happened. Like I was just very, very lucky in the university. And he actually helped me to, identify my choices. I decided to start my career in Procter Gamble because I didn't like the workload in McKinsey. So, and that was the year of maybe 2000. And then, I started in Procter & Gamble, passed all the interviews and all that. And there I was, I had a very good career. I entered marketing, which is the leading department. And after a short time in, P&G first round, I was the fastest promoted brand manager in Turkey. And then they sent me to Geneva, to the headquarters.
20 something.
I was 26 by the time. I got promoted to manage a $40 million business by the age of 24. And that was very, very fast, even in the standards of Procter & Gamble. So they sent me to Geneva for a career track to develop my career into general management. And I went to Switzerland. I was there for 5 years and managing regional business. It was like a $250 million business, 60 countries. I was like, my age, I was like 25, 26 at the time. So I spent some time there. And where I also luckily met with my wife.
In Switzerland?
Yeah, in Switzerland. My wife, and she's Russian, and she's now working in Yandex. And I was very, very lucky to meet with her, and I decided to follow her. And that's my story.
That's how Russia appears in this
That's how
story.
Russia came into the play. Yeah, exactly.
And what was the first thing you were doing in P&G when you joined the company? What was the very first task?
I was supposed to launch odor eliminator product. And it was called Febreze at the time, and I was super excited about it. And actually, they gave the whole launch to me, and I was reporting to the brand manager. And I can tell you the story, it was a total failure. So, I started with a total failure in my career. I worked on it for a year. We launched it. It was a total bomb. And I learned a lot from that, actually. So
why it was a failure?
There was no use case. There was no consumer need for eliminating the odors. But P&G thought there is one. So, and actually globally, the business took off way later. So P&G relaunched the product after 10 years and it worked. So that's the story. So then I came to Russia with my wife after, 5 years, and I was still with Procter & Gamble, and I was the director who was managing the beauty division. So I started with small business, like $150 million. My responsibilities increased in 2 years. By the time I left Procter & Gamble, I was managing $1 billion business. And, I was quite fast in my career and all that. So I always liked, the fast pace of Procter & Gamble. But I also felt like I wanted to, explore different things. And I wanted to be a CEO very, very, somehow very badly. And in P&G, although I was managing big business and so on, I didn't feel like I'm fully in control.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so, and then I went for a CMO role in Samsung Electronics. It was bigger. At that time, business was flying. The year was 2013, and Android was getting very popular, and Samsung became market leader, and the business was like more than $6 billion. So I was a CMO for that. So I had a huge budget, I was also running the brand stores for retail. I was there for 2 years. And after 2 years, it was a time for career change. And actually, my story is I was also fired from Samsung Electronics.
Cool.
Yeah, so because they did a restructuring, and my position was completely eliminated. And and then they came to me one day, and then they said, "Look, we're restructuring, and we're gonna put your position under the verticals, and we don't necessarily need you anymore because we need 4 of you, right?" So And of course the position was scaled down. So that was a shock for me. So and actually I took it very personally and very serious. It's my failure, and maybe to some extent it was my failure. But getting fired liberated me, and that's actually how I entered another life, which is by the year of 2015. Now I'm just publicly fired. Quite a fast track in career, and I was looking for what to do. And my wife helped me a lot during this period. And she basically told me, look, all your life you worked in corporations and you talked about how corporations are slow and bureaucratic. And yeah. And then she said, maybe it's time that, you always complain, maybe you do your own thing or you become an entrepreneur. And then if you are so good, let's see it. And if you are not so good, maybe you shut up. Or you come back to corp. And what happened is I took a very risky assignment. I wanted to be a CEO very badly. So, I became the CEO for Domino's Pizza operations for Russia. And it was under a private equity. A private equity just bought it. It was a Turkish private equity. They approached me. And it was bankrupt, and it was in huge debt. And it was less than 20 stores, bad operations. It was 2015, and there was no fast delivery. I took that business at the helm, and things worked out well. So I was able to launch online. There was an online business, so I launched online. That's how I got into tech, and that's how I get into e-commerce. I launched first online sales, the website, the application, and then the biggest breakthrough came when I started to apply tech for managing the pizza makers and the drivers, to the large extent. And that was a big breakthrough because I was able to track what pizza makers are doing in the stores with the keyboards and screens. And I was able to launch the 30-minute guaranteed delivery. And we came up with a bold marketing campaign because I come from marketing as well. So we came up with 30 minutes delivery guaranteed with a free pizza. And that was a big breakthrough for the Russian market. And it was the fastest delivery at that time. So, and then we took over leadership in Russia, in Moscow very fast. So we became number 1 in Moscow. And, 2 years later, I find myself, with the shareholders in London Stock Exchange, and we were doing an IPO. So
I'm really curious, you were asked to join the company, completely unprofitable, with losing the market share, almost a bankrupt. And how you were feeling before joining this? Was really scary, or what was the thoughts behind? What am I doing, or what was that?
Of course, I was scared. But at the same time, I had nothing to lose because I just came out of a very traumatic experience of being fired from a very high-profile job. And although it was restructuring, it really, really touched me at that time. And actually, I remember I went to my family, I went to my mom to meet with her. I needed support, right? So it was heavy on me, and because I took it very personal. And one of the first things that I learned after that is don't take it personal. Okay, don't take it personal.
Shit happens.
Shit happens, and all the time. And so I was free, and being free, it helped me to look at the world from different angle. And I said, what? I want to do something that is really challenging, but I want to be in control. And that was very important for me. And, the good thing in Domino's Pizza case was the shareholders offered me equity. Because it's a bankrupt company, right? The value of the equity was minus at that time. So when they offered me the equity, and it wasn't a motivator for me. I didn't even understand. I didn't even grasp the potential of what that equity would be in material reward. And I was not motivated by it at all. I was only motivated by how impossible the assignment is. So, and that has been a driving factor for me in the rest of my career. I like impossible assignments. I like things that seems very, very difficult, because by nature I'm a high achiever. But then over time I also understand I cannot do it myself. You do it with a team. So that's why I was attracted by the challenge in the job, like, going to a completely bankrupt company, completely bad operations and so on. Can I turn this around? So that was very motivating. That was one. But the second thing is maybe being in real life. So, and I think that's very important. Think about, now we are very spoiled with fast delivery, and all this. But think about 2015. In 2015, if you would get out, and I always wanted to live in the city, not in a compound like expats did. And I tried to live a very Russian and local life. And I was by the so-called metro station. I got out and I wanted to eat something because I'm Turkish, right? So, I want to eat something outside, street food. There was no street food. The street food was...
near the metro.
It's either the street food is very, very, low price, low hygiene, or it's you go to the restaurant and you just wait for it. Okay, so there's nothing in between. Or you go to some fast food, right? So, and that was not... I felt like, oh my God, there's a very, very big gap in here. And then I also remember, I ordered pizza once and it came in 1.5 hours and the guy didn't even apologize. And I was like, okay, so, and this was my experience before. And having no street food, getting pizza, and when Domino's Pizza approached me, I was like, okay, do I believe one day we can bring 30 minutes? There's a potential for this in the market, 100%, because I lived, like a regular citizen, right? So I saw that opportunity, I felt that opportunity. Can I do it? Was a question to be seen. So, but these are the two things probably that helped me. And the third one is, of course, my wife's support, because Yana immediately told me, she said, do what you want to do, because she already had a career in Procter Gamble and she was already supportive. So we said, okay, fine, I'm going to go for it. And having the supportive wife, the support network, being in the city, and, I probably, those are the factors that helped me to make that jump.
And secret sauce behind the success of Domino's, how do you feel? What was the secret behind
Disruption. I think we did 3 things that was absolutely unexpected. So I'm the inventor of buy 2 get 1 free pizza in Russia.
Really?
So nobody did that because we invented that. So what we've done is first we improved the pizza quality. But improving pizza quality, it's easy to say, right? So because your cost will increase. So how do you turn around any business? To turn around any business, which is something that I also applied into Delivery Club, and now we do it with Magnit, is the first thing is you have to create a good quality product, but you have to be able to make money with it. So only cutting costs is not the way, right? So, but improving the quality also improves the cost. So the key is you have to make it so good that people are ready to pay for it. And it was difficult for us because one pizza does not pay out in delivery, because delivery is very expensive. I looked at the pizza, we improved the pizza, we increased the cost, but then we're looking at it, we're never going to make money with it. Why? Because we can make money with we could make money with 3 pizza, but we couldn't make money with 1 delivery.
And the regular order is 1.
Regular order is 1.5. So, and we looked at it and I said, we have to sell 3 pizzas every time we sell. And then we looked at each other, we said okay, I said let's go with the aggressive promotion, buy 2 get 1 free. And that was one thing. Okay, so on the food side, because you cannot just sell tech to people. And then the second thing is we said, how can we deliver in 30 minutes? So because everybody was delivering between 45, 1 hour, 1.5 hour. You remember those times we didn't have the delivery network. Delivery Club and Yandex were not even they were very small. And we said okay, how do we deliver in 30 minutes? To deliver in 30 minutes, your average time from order to delivery should be 21 to 22 minutes if you want to guarantee that. 21 to 22 minutes. What does that mean? You can cook pizza fastest in 12 minutes. So, and we could do that. The problem is nobody was doing it. And nobody was doing it because nobody could control the pizza makers. And what we did is we had keyboards and screens. For every pizza that you were cooking, you were clicking on the keyboard saying I cook this. Right, so that's what we made pizza makers do, and we tracked the pizza out the door time. So everybody was focusing on the couriers and speed of delivery. We said we're not going to focus on couriers because you cannot speed up the couriers. That's dangerous. So what we're going to speed up is we're going to speed up pizza making without compromising on quality. And that's when we used the tech. And that's one of the first times I used tech, a core tech in the core operations, and that was a disruptor. And so and as a result, once the pizza was getting out of there in 25 minutes. Pizza started to get out of there in 12 minutes. That gave me 18 minutes to deliver. In 18 minutes with car, you can cover a lot of ground. And that's how we offered 30 minutes and guaranteed that. Then, of course, disruptive marketing. We offered free pizza. We would be bankrupt. But the Russian customers, I know Russian customers, they're honest. They are honest. So, and what happened is, people responded to that. And, our free pizza cost at that time was 0.5%. So it was so low. And that was the second. The third one was launching online. I think launching online was, a big thing. So once we launched our website, which I had no experience at that time. But after that, we also launched the first application, which was a disaster because I had no experience. And that's when I also learned. You mean
in terms of UX or?
I had no idea what I'm doing. So, I was just launching an app with an outsourced company. And, I was like, this should work, right? So because we did the website, it's working. And I didn't have any experience in UX, UI, product management, zero. And this was the year of 2016. It was already like, maybe 6 to 9 months after I joined Pizza because we turned around the business, the store economics already in 6 months. And the private equity gave us a lot of capital to invest into. And then they told me like, okay, so what is next? So, and I didn't know the product, so I just delegated. And this is one of the mistakes I've done, and I learned from this. Never delegate tech, and then never delegate product. And that was a big learning for me. And so I will just give you the funny story about these times. Like, it's 2016. I have no product management experience. So what we've done, and, I had 2 people in tech department. At that time, we were like a very small operation, but the business was already growing 3 times. So what we did is we got to a room and then we said, look, what are the good applications? So because when you don't have an idea and when you don't have resources, one of the best things to do, copy. So we said, what is a good application? Delivery Club. Okay, let's look at Delivery Club. So we looked at Delivery Club. Now we said, what about Pizza Hut? So we got the global Pizza Hut. We downloaded, we looked at this. And then we went to Google. At that time, there was not the time of AI. So in Google, when you say product management, you wouldn't get any results, right? So it's 2015, 16. So, we tried to get, and then out of that, we finished the 3-4 hours with 11 principles. We basically reinvented the wheel because we didn't know product management. And then we came up with these very simple basic things. One action button for every page. Action button should be consistently colored and it should be bright. Options should be in passive colors. And, and that kind of things. So, like now I have this presentation and when I look at it, we still laugh about it. But basically after that, we relaunched the app. Based on these principles, and we simplified it big time. And what happened is, the app had like a conversion rate of 55%, and app became like 50% of the all online sales. And we doubled business 4 years in a row from like total. By the time I left the company, it was like the sales were up 16 times. And online sales were 80% of all delivery sales. And 2+1 pizza became a market standard because 2+1 economics worked. And then, we kept it always on. And it's still on, by the way. So, and then it became a market standard. So that's how we turned around Domino's.
Amazing story, really. We can probably shoot a separate podcast on a Domino's story. So then the Delivery Club came in your life with the history of somehow you joined the company, then you scaled the company, and then you sold the company to Yandex. Can you elaborate in a few sentences how it all happened?
So first of all, when people look at the Delivery Club story, like, it looks like very nice. Like if you look at the numbers, so we were able to increase the total GMV by close to 10 times by the time I left. So, it was, I came to some GMV, something like 200 million. And then by the time I left, the run rate was right before special operations. The run rate was about $2 billion. So, like 10 times growth, 4 years, it looks like a very romantic story. And everybody has this notion when you look at business stories, like all these kind of big growth stories or turnaround stories, everything's, rock star management and they did everything right and, they constantly built and they grew. the reality is not like this. I mean, there are rarely in my life anything that worked sequentially. Okay, Domino's, we were lucky because maybe like it was like an empty playground, and we just did the right things in the right orders, and it worked out. Like a few mistakes, but then like launching wrong applications. Delivery Club was not like that. Delivery Club, and generally the business stories about this is you make tons of mistakes. And I think I've done a lot of mistakes. Also myself, I evolved during the Delivery Club, and my leadership also evolved, and I learned a lot of things. When I came, I was very much on growth mindset because it was the marketplace era. So, and remember the first stage of the marketplaces. First stage of marketplace, there's only one rule: get the market share, dominate, because there's huge reward for scale, right? So that's the first marketplace. But then, what happened, and I was focusing on that. So I was trying to, focus on growth, and I came up with some ideas that really worked for Delivery Club. So for example, we were giving promo codes. And promo codes are like a 30% discount. And it's just killing the economics, 30%, right? So if your check is 1,000 ruble, 30%, 300 ruble, right? So, and I was looking at it like, why do we give 30% discount? We deliver McDonald's. And I knew the food cost of the business because I come from the quick service industry, right? So I went to McDonald's and I basically asked them, hey, can we get the Big Mac at cost, which at that time was like 45 rubles. And then instead of giving 30% discount, we made a deal with McDonald's. We bought Big Mac from them for 45 rubles. And we basically said, can we give Big Mac for free for every order? And they're like, yeah, of course. And then guess what happened, right? So, it became big hits. And, basically in 6 months, we doubled business. So I was very marketing and consumer oriented, and I just applied some. But that was the start. And, and that made all of us feel like, oh, we're going to do this. The situation was, Delivery Club was losing market share big time to Yandex Yeda because in 18 months that Yandex Yeda was launched, they got almost like 40%, 45% market share. And Delivery Club losing fast. That's why I was hired, right? So so growing that and creating some positive momentum was very well received. And at that time, we also did a joint venture with Sberbank. And Sberbank also came and they said like, okay, let's just go grow now. So we were all in a growth mission. And that was my first year. And this is where I made maybe the biggest mistake. I was very focused on growth. I was not focused on the quality. And I was not focused on the technology. I was not focused on the courier delivery because it's when you are growing twice, when you are a declining company and then when you start growing trials and then you get market share.
And grow, you mean the cities or the number of the chains on the platform or both?
All. We were growing on all cylinders. We were growing on the number of restaurants. We were growing on the number of orders. We were growing on the number of couriers. But ask me about the quality of the growth. It was really poor because our service was getting worse and worse. And I wasn't really focused on that.
I remember that. That probably was a moment of time when I switched from the Delivery Club.
We lost a lot of customers during this period. So, and I wasn't focused on it. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how to apply tech. I had no idea. And I have this story that, I didn't know what data science is. And we had a data science guy. So he asked me at that time, it was 2019, asked me at that time, what is data science and what is analytics? I was running Delivery Club. I wouldn't be able to explain that to you. But I'm a learner, so I never defined myself with a title. I never defined myself like, hey, I'm a CEO or I'm a director or I'm this or that. Like I never do that because I think that's a mistake. That limits people. I define myself as a student. So I'm like, okay, so like I did in Domino's, working as a pizza maker, trying to deliver pizza in 12 minutes and working as a courier. I'm like, okay, so what is data science? What is it about? And I was very lucky. We had Konstantin Ismailov. He's now one of the top data scientists in the country. And now he's the CEO of Magnit Market. And I met with him and he was in Delivery Club. I said, explain what you do. And he explained what he did. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. We can solve every single problem. He said, no, you can't. I said, why? Because management is not using it. And that was like a turnaround for me. That was one. And then the second one is when I declared to my leadership team that we're going to go to the second stage of Delivery Club, which is we're not going to prioritize growth. but we're going to prioritize the technology and the service and the experience. So I said, we're going to do what the customers want. We will reduce delivery time. Delivery time blew up to 55 minutes. This is too long. So from 55 minutes, we're going to go down to 30 minutes. And everybody thought it's impossible because average restaurants are preparing the food in 18, 20 minutes. Then they said like, it's impossible, right? So, and now we said, why not try? Because I know the potential of that, right? So from Domino's and so on. So that's what we started to focus on. And I increased the data science resources from 3 to, by the time I left, it was like 60. And I started to focus on really, really quality growth, not the growth itself. We started to earn our growth rather than pay for our growth. And what happened was an amazing transformation out of that. But before that, I went through a huge pain. And my pain was, by the end of first year in Delivery Club, there was a very big gap between me and the product community in the company. Because everybody thought I don't understand the product. And everybody thought I don't understand tech. I didn't help with the legacy. I was micromanaging the product or not managing the product. I didn't know, like, should I micromanage or should I not manage? That was really difficult for me because I didn't come from product background. I knew what the customers want. So that's my superpower. But I didn't know this process. And actually, I clashed with the team a lot. And this is the time that probably I made a lot of mistakes in terms of management and so on. But I was very clear on my vision. My vision was, we're going to be the fastest, delivery company with the best service. And that's what I declared as a vision to my leadership team. But a lot of people were not on board with that because it meant we're going to invest our resources, because at that time, 60% of our product resources and tech resources were on the customer product. I say we're going to take the 60%, we're going to put them into ops technologies, and we're going to put them into, delivering for the courier service and restaurant service on the backside. Nobody liked that. So what happened is I lost 70% of my leadership team. My CPO, CTO, deputy CPO, all of them left because I wanted to do that so fast. But during that period, there is always this creative distraction, right? So, I did it so fast, and 70% of my leadership team left. But some stayed and they believed in the vision. And then together with them, I rebuilt. And now what we did is like we completely took the high potential people who believes in the vision, and then we promoted them. And that's one of them is Andrei Koristin. He became CPO for Magnit OMNI now, and he became head of Ops Tech. And he was the R&D manager. He was like 2 levels below the CPO at that time. But together with them, we rebuilt. And now we completely focused. And then the second question came, how do we write those technologies, right? So how do we write those algorithms, data science? And then where do we learn it from? Copy. So we started by copying Yandex to a large extent, but then we started to invent when it came to a certain level, we started, invent ourselves. Long story short, that was a transform. And during that period, I deeply understood tech because I was hands-on in it. And then I went into our architecture, I went into our product, I went into our product management process, because many people think product is technology, right? It's not. Product is culture. Product is process. So what drives the culture is the process. And when I understood about, the process and the culture, I completely changed my management approach. And that's when I started to hire the right people to the right places. I started to invest into technology. I started to complete the Basta legacy. I did my first, monolith dechunking like everybody else does, right? So, and I went through all the pains of that. And after that, by the end of the period, by the time that we were leaving Delivery Club, average delivery time went down to 27 minutes. Despite we work with the restaurants. And we entered into grocery business. We became fastest growing grocery business and so on. So we saw the results. And at one point, the retention rate went up to 45% month 1. That was so high. And as a result of this, we shut down our marketing. Because we were not supposed to pay for our growth anymore because we were earning our growth. And what we did is we shut down the marketing. So we had to disrupt again. So we came up with a subscription and free delivery. And we said, no search, all free delivery if you are the subscriber. And then the subscribers came in, and then we launched, and then what happened, our market share went up all the way to 75%. And then what happened, the special operations happens and so on, and our competition makes a bid to buy us,
Sure.
and then that's how we exit the business. And by the time we exit business, also we made the restaurant business profitable. Mm-hmm. We never announced it, but we made that business profitable, and grocery business was in investment stage. So it is also, we never wanted to immediately save money. So because we wanted to invest for the grocery business, because that was really growing so fast as well. But restaurant business was already in profit by the time that we came. And that was the journey for me for the last those 4 years.
Interesting. And then came Magnit. So once again, from the, let's say, fancy industry of delivery club, not so-called big tech or really tech company, but, well, I would say tech. You join in the Magnit, which was not fancy, old school, very huge one, definitely with a lot of legacy behind, and you join in them. So the question is why actually they hired you, for which challenge to solve, and the perimeter of your role at this day, and now what you're basically doing there.
Yeah, thank you. I got this question a lot. So first of all, thank you for the question. As I said, probably what I'm really attracted to is challenging, impossible assignments. Magnit, by the time that I joined, which was beginning of 23, and which was after my exit from Delivery Club, I was together with the team. So because I understood the value of the team, and I understood, and I created some sort of a community around me, and a very strong leadership team, and everybody was looking up to me, saying that, okay, what are we gonna do next, right? So, and given that I'm not Russian, everybody also expected me to leave the country. But actually, I'm really, really committed to the country. So I really like Russia, and I really like the opportunities in here, and I really like living in here. And my family is also Russian. Yeah. And I made a very clear choice that I'm committed to be in here. So I said I'm gonna stay here. I'm not gonna go abroad. And so I was looking for the opportunities. And one of the most important things for me is it has to be challenging. It has to be challenging. That's number one. Number two, I learned when you have 2 financial exits in your life, there comes a point of financial freedom. And then you're not working for any, material gain. I don't need to work one more day in my life for money. I don't need to do that. And but Elon Musk doesn't need to do that, right? So and Jeff Bezos doesn't need to do that. And Charlie Munger died at 99. He didn't need to do that, right? Why do they continue? Because first we say I'm gonna get rich and I'm gonna early retire. No, actually it doesn't work like that. So you need a mission. You need a challenge. So I was looking for a challenge. Number one. Number two, I was looking for also my purpose during also the Domino's and the Delivery Club. I started to shape up my purpose, which is what do I do? What do I bring to the table? Okay, I can turn around business and I can make a lot of money for the shareholders. Okay, that's good, right? So, that's value adding. But what's important for me is profit is not the motive. What really motivates me is the impact that I can create for the other people. The bigger the impact, the better it is. For example, with Delivery Club, if we could reduce this 55 minutes to 27 minutes, we make everybody's life a little bit better. But a lot of everybody, a lot of people, right? Sure. So when you multiply this, it's like momentum, mass times the improvement. That's an impact, and that's what I'm motivated with. And same for my job in Domino's Pizza, because in Domino's Pizza we did disrupted with another thing, which is we couldn't find managers who were entrepreneurial to manage the stores. We started to hire, and we started to over promote our drivers. And our drivers, by the time I left the company, 95% of store managers were inborn, meaning they were drivers or pizza makers before. Whoa. And the life of those people changed. They start with 25,000 ruble salary. They end up with 200,000 ruble salary. That's a big life changer when you are in this segment of the society. Sure. And that was what was motivating me when I was coming home. So Delivery Club pretty much the same. At one point in Delivery Club, I'll give you an example related with this. I was very much focused on cutting the costs for the couriers. That was a big mistake. That's one of the biggest mistakes. We focused so much on cost management for the couriers couriers, we end up with no couriers. And the COVID came, and then, we couldn't serve, and then, we completely destroyed our service. So, and then when we changed our technology and when we changed our approach, and we said, look, we're going to prioritize the customer, but we're going to be efficient, with the couriers. We actually say we didn't pay much more to the couriers per order, but we got so much more orders, and the couriers started to deliver more orders per day. Their income exploded. And at one point, the couriers were earning 150,000, and now this is the case, But at that time, it was like breakthrough.
Yeah,
right. So, and then for me, that was also part of the mission, which is like improving the life of the couriers, not only improving the life of the customers but also improving the life of the couriers. Then the third one is, what about my employees? So, because I come from Procter Gamble, there is one thing unique in Procter Gamble: promotion within. They never hire people from outside. They only grow from within. So that's why there's a huge focus. If you don't hire from outside, what do you have to do? You have to develop your own people. So what do? They hire a lot of top talent, they put them into competition, and one of them becomes a brand manager. Then you have a lot of brand manager, they are in competition, one of them becomes the marketing director. And then, it goes like this,
just
right?
McKinsey model.
So, but McKinsey can get people from outside. P&G doesn't. It's forbidden. And so that's why I learned in Procter & Gamble a very, very big toolkit, coaching, feedbacking, developing, career management, motivating people, conflict management, communication, and that kind of toolkit I had. And this kind of toolkit does not exist in big tech. Nobody teaches you that.
Sure.
If you're a product manager, if you are, a tech developer, you're not exposed to this. There's some webinars or like some stuff for, maybe, for coding, and, but you don't get exposed to these things. And these soft skills don't exist.
Yeah, I would put it even like harder than the management. Overall level of management in big tech normally is way lower.
Yes.
Than in those companies like P&G.
Exactly. And then so what happened is, for me, I understood that, hey, I can put this to good use. Right? So, instead of me only learning about product and tech, what if I bring this kind of, toolkit and I try to help people to develop their career? And that's what I try to do in Delivery Club. And we created this first leadership team, and I fixed my leadership. But then we created a group of 40 people, which we called extended leadership team. And we were training them, we were coaching them. I was hand selecting the high potential people, having breakfast with them, mentoring them, coaching them. And we decided to do something different. We decided to disrupt in a way that, hey, we will identify, the high potential people, and we will grow everybody. That's our mission. And that's what motivates me. Back to your question after this long intro, I was very motivated that I could do a lot of that in Magnit. Huge platform.
Big enough.
It's huge. And I was originally hired for food delivery business. Now I'm managing 4 verticals. So I have loyalty and personalization for the whole company. I have Magnit Market, which is our acquisition of Kazan Express. I have food delivery and also advertising technologies, the 4th, which is the new vertical. And now we have the 4 verticals. So that's why we call it Magnit OMNI. And now we recently made Magnit OMNI the business unit, and I'm the head of that. And all these people, after the Delivery Club exit, the 40 people, they actually followed me. So we hired
all of them.
Yeah, we hired around 40 people to come to with me.
So it was a part of your deal with the shareholders that I'm joining with the team of mine.
It was not. We were not supposed to hire 40. So my deal was like my immediate leadership team, and that was only 6 people at the time. Okay, so I came in with only 6 people. But then what happens is A players bring A players.
Sure.
So and then what happens is it was very easy to bring all the people back from Yandex and other big tech back to Omni, because they really liked the mission. So basically our mission was like, okay, that's another impossible assignment, right? Number 2 is 0.9%. The potential is huge. And number 3, which I really like, is I like taking this, what we call in English, the underdog assignments. You're the last. So look, some people are very motivated by being the first. Like they want to do, okay, I want to do AI, I want to do AI innovation, I want to do the AI company and all that, okay? And some people are very motivated, but look, I want to work on the cutting edge, right? So, and they feel proud about this. I somehow ended up in my career always taking these underdog assignments, which is, hey, I'm the last. Like I'm the last. In Domino's Pizza, you're the last. Like you don't even know how to do an app, right? So, and then you have to outsmart, or there is freedom in being lost. Why? Because
Nothing to lose.
there's nothing to lose, right? So, and there's a lot to build. And now, given that there's a lot of smart people, big tech already invested, Delivery Club already invested in how to do the last mile technologies. Delivery Club did that capitalization, right? So they invest into R&D all these years. I don't need to reinvent that. I just have to reapply, right?
Yeah.
So I can pick and choose all the good ideas from anywhere. And this is one of the things that for example, I always clash with product tech community a little bit, right? Although I'm super supportive of them. One of the disease I see is NIH, not invented here. I don't have that. I don't have that at all. Because I look at any good idea, I just copy. And then, and when we don't have a solution, we invent.
That you'll never imagine being in Yandex, for instance. I mean, in Yandex, not invented here is probably one of the the main principles that they have inside, and that's the reason they, from one point of view, what is great that they independent. I mean, to 100% from pretty much everything in terms of tech, but on the other hand, it's all was invented there, and if someone really special will leave the company, well, that's a question.
I think it all depends on the business model, right? So when in a big tech business model, you have to invent, and that's important. That's okay. You have to invent. You have to be on the front line. You have to constantly make bets. In our business model, I'm not saying that we should not invent. We should invent, and that's why we have bets. We have tests, we have experiments, like we have new businesses, and we are testing new technologies. It's not like we're not doing it, but when you own a core business that you're trying to catch up, okay, so a lot of things are invented, right? So just out inventing and outsmarting the others is not like you cannot outsmart the others by out inventing all the time. So that's what I'm saying, which is take the things that work, reapply them efficiently, because somebody did R&D for that. You can use them; they are working. Okay, but then invent the things to get you ahead. And this is where I find the job incredibly intellectually challenging. Why? Because when you're the last fifth or the sixth player, and you have to invent something, and that's what I love, and that's what actually worked in Magnit as well. So in the last 2 years, Magnit Food Delivery. The last 2 years, we have been the fastest growing service in the country. And, we have really great financial results. And so this is quite impressive. That shows how we operate. Doesn't mean that, it's full of success, right? So there's a bunch of failures inside as well.
Sure.
I like that outsmarting part. And I find it incredibly intellectually challenging. And that's why, I like to work with people who are like, okay, that looks challenging. That looks impossible. Where do we start? So you need to a little bit believe in this impossible thing, and that's the kind of two people that I'd like to work with. And, that now the community is growing, right? So now we have 4 verticals. Our extended leadership team in Magnit OMNI is now 130 people, 130 high potential, people for the future. And that's why we also came up with this employee value proposition. We call it reinventing retail and growing ourselves. So we decided, what do we offer to people? Because from the outside, everybody says, oh, Magnit is bureaucratic. What are you doing there? Well,
that was a question of mine, like how you overcame this bureaucracy that even though that it's probably from outside looks worse than it is in reality, but I'm sure that the Magnit is the bureaucratic company. So how you overcame it?
Of course, there should be bureaucracy. I mean, that bureaucracy is necessary. Okay, so it's a very big company of 30,000 stores, and of course you will have bureaucracy. But I think first of all, Magnit OMNI has quite an autonomous or semi-autonomous status within the company, and that's thanks to the management and the shareholders, the way that we were able to structure that. And now we are an independent business unit working with all the formats, and I think this is very important to have this autonomy for the management and innovate, and we can apply. I would say we are much more working like a tech company inside Magnit than a retail company. And then the second is huge support from retail, because there's a symbiotic relationship between the online part of business, offline, and now actually they are not even different. Offline, online is the one customer. So that's why we call it Omni. And then the third one is still applying some intellectual techniques. So one of my favorite books about tech is team topologies. And from team topologies, I learned something from them, then which we actually applied to our work with Magnit. And that's about how do you de-chunk a monolith, or how do you connect with a monolith? Like imagine that you have a program, and we're talking to the product tech community here, and you have an API, and your API works, okay? But there's a monolith, and they don't really and you need to connect with that monolith. How do you make the connection, right? And what you need to do is you need to understand every monolith is a set of services. And these services, the problem with the old style monoliths is these services are too much entangled in between.
True.
So if you want to connect with an API to a monolith, what you need to do is you need to find those services, and there are nodes. Right, so the nodes, you need to connect to the nodes. So what we have done was, let's identify Magnit, okay? Because Magnit is not, it's a monolith in terms of its management, and now actually it's becoming format-based restructure. So it's not so much of a monolith anymore, which is great news. But by the time that we came, there was, it was a monolith. So we said, who are the key people? Who are the nodes, right? So how can we take inspiration from team topologies to apply to here so that we connect with them, but on a management basis, not on a technology basis?
Yeah, sure.
So, and on management basis, we have identified, do you know how many people we identified? 43 people. We identified 43 very critical people that we need to, work with. And now we identified 43 people in Magnit OMNI to take ownership of those people. And now we said, okay, these 43 people are responsible for this relationship. And every person is going to be responsible for making the other person, align with the other person, solve issues with that other person. And that worked brilliantly. We call it CPT-PEL, CPT Critical Partner Team PEL Partner Engagement Lead. So a little bit also from consultancy, framework. Yeah. And then when we did this connection, we started to work and identify issues in mind, because, we saw bureaucracy, and we were blocked by bureaucracy. And it's normal in any big company, normal. But we sorted almost every single one of them with this approach. And that's one of the reasons we are the team who came to Magnit, because we are the fourth e-commerce team in Magnit, because most of them left before. And because the company didn't fully understand, exactly the e-com team and culture. And e-com team and culture did not really wanted to understand the rest of the company. So there was this, disconnect. But then we actually connected the dots. 43 dots. And this was the framework that we applied. And as a result of this, we start to move very fast. And, here we are.
Amazing. That's really interesting one. And the last probably one about the Magnit. So imagine me being, I don't know, a Java or Golang developer at Avito. What's the reason for me to leave this nice and very fancy business and probably, one of the most amazing offices in Moscow and all this blah, blah, blah stuff, and join the Magnit OMNI?
I think it's a great question. And my answer to that is very simple. And maybe it will sound grandiose, but we can offer you to change the society and improve the people's lives in a real way. Answer is very simple. We offer those customers an improved experience with the application, personalized discounts so that they can save more and they can enjoy more life. When we give them convenient services like delivery, free delivery that will come to their home in 30, 35 minutes, we improve the lives of those customers. Now, we give you the opportunity to improve the lives of millions of customers, number one. Number two, if you are working in our OPSEC department, by doing a very good picking app, and I think we have one of the best picking apps in the market right now because we just did it, right? So it's a new one, no legacy. When you do the picking app, you improve the lives of 300,000 people who are pickers in the stores. So you are creating a lot of value for the society. Okay. Now, the third one is you also have to do that in a very challenging environment because you have to outsmart the others, right? So because you need to be competitive, you still need to make money, you still need to have a competitive service. So you need to be. We are offering you this intellectual challenge, and we are supporting you for that. Does that mean that you have to compromise on your coffee? Yes. Unfortunately, we don't have the great coffee yet, right? So we're working on it. We're working on new office experience and coffee and all that. We will improve all that. But the thing is, if you are really motivated by these yellow fancy chairs in the office, and that really motivates you, and I understand why you would be motivated by that, right? So I'm not saying that it's bad. It's necessary. I would love to have that, okay? But we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And that's why we are very clear it's not part of our proposition. Because if you are motivated by this amazing, nice, comfy environment and, a yellow chair, good coffee and, and all that, like maybe we're not the right place for you, because we're looking for people, who are motivated to take a challenge on themselves. Who wants to learn? Who wants to grow? I mean, we promoted in the last 2 years more than maybe 50 to 60 people to managerial roles that they didn't even think they would be promoted. So they were all internally selected. So if you're motivated by this kind of growth, and then as a result of your work, you're really changing Russia. I mean, that's...
So the impact is number one.
It's the impact. And, you see, a lot of people say like, hey, it's a corporation, and so on. In my view, leaders make the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are also partially my values, and these are the values that I want to implement in the team. I'm not saying that everything is great, okay? So we also have a lot of dysfunctionalities. We have a lot of issues. But when I look at the progress that we made and the impact that we made, I'm very proud of that. So as I said, like now we are becoming one of the top food tech players in the market. We're working on our marketplace. Nobody has such kind of omni model with the retail. Loyalty and CVM is going to absolutely from heights to heights, every month. And think about this. So maybe my last point about this is it's easy to do online to offline. Okay, what is online to offline? This is what the marketplaces do, or like, big tech does, right? So, you go to an app, you make an order and somebody physically delivers. We call it online to offline. In Magnit OMNI, we do something different. We do offline to online. But actually with the loyalty and personalization, and with the application experience, there's 96% of the business there. And actually, let me give you a staggering number. The number of active app users who are transacting with us every month, switching on application, are close to 17 million. And the funny thing, most of them, interact and they buy something offline. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is we are working with offline to online experience.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This is unique. This doesn't exist. So yes, you might be in your comfy chair, but do you want to disrupt offline experience to make it online? Because here's what happens. If you are going to do stores, in the past, how was it? You go to the store, you buy something, you pay from the cashier, and that's it, right? You show your loyalty card to collect the points maybe. That was it. The world has changed completely. This has changed completely. Now you have an app. With, we understand what you are buying. So you have personalized offers on your application. Second, you have your favorite categories that you are choosing, which is self-personalization. 3, you can play games, you can earn prizes and so on. You can order food delivery. You go through the cashier, now we immediately send you like it's in the taxi or delivery experience. We immediately send you a ping notification. Did you like that experience? Rate that experience. And if you rate that experience 1, cashiers get the feedback. And the store manager gets the feedback. They deal with that customer. So in so many ways, apps are completely disrupting and changing the offline retail experience. And we are on the forefront of it, because we are one of the biggest businesses doing that, and that's what we mean by reinventing retail.
Yeah, that's great. Let's say more broader topic, like you've been in Russia for more than 10 years, right? In Russian e-commerce. So I would say that that gives us actually the right to call you one of the top experts here in e-commerce in Russia. And the question of mine is whether you see some unique or specific characteristics of Russian e-commerce compared to the global market, and how do you see the current stage of this e-commerce in the Russian economy? Like, is it on peak, or we are just started, or it's somehow fading, or what is happening in that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I'll give an answer. Everybody overestimates what's going to happen in 5 years, and everybody underestimates what's going to happen in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I learned in my life, not to look at 5 years, but to look at decades, like to look at 10 years. And that's one of the reasons, I made a lot of, controversial moves in my career, in my businesses and so on. And when I look at the Russian e-commerce, first of all, similarities with the rest of the world are way higher than the differences. So you got to start with that. And there is a tsunami coming. that nobody sees. And this tsunami is not AI tsunami. AI is going to disrupt us for sure, right? So, but I don't want to talk about that. I think there are a lot of experts in the country who can talk about this, and I don't consider myself as an expert. I consider myself as a student. So the real tsunami that's coming is generational change, and generational change is going to disrupt us in so many ways that many businesses will be flat-footed and they won't be able to respond. What do I mean by that? We are in 2025. What is the dominant generation right now? Y generation. The spenders, right? The dominant generation, what is the dominant generation or dominant spenders in most of the sectors? Family, basically 1.5 income or double income, and then 2 kids. And these kids are, up to 12, 13, 15 years old, right? So that's the dominant spender generation. How old are they now?
35, 40.
35, 40. When were they born?
87, 85.
1985, right? So, which is their typical Y generation. So did those people grow up with smartphones and social media?
Well, half of their life almost
Yes.
been in this.
And when they were kids, did they have it?
No.
No. Which means that they adopted technology, smartphone, social media to their lives later. Okay. So let's fast forward 10 years. Year 2035. When are those generation born?
Yeah, so beginning of 2000s, right?
Yeah. And then what did they grow up with?
Yeah, smartphones. Yeah.
Now, what will be their default choice? The generation that does not call the hotline, the generation that chooses chat over phone calls, right? So, like you want to ping your friend. Yeah. My generation, like we don't ping each other, right? So we call each other. That's my generation. Like, I'm born in 77. So, I'm 47 years old. In my generation, we didn't chat really. Like, we were calling people saying, how are you? And there's a generation who does not call, who does not pick up, who does not want to talk with the call center. We can see that with the numbers, right? We have a generation now who does not want to go to the store. I mean, for them, going to the store is just waste of time. You have free delivery. Why should I go to the stores, right? So, so what will happen when that generation becomes the dominant generation? All the spending habits will change. And this is what we call the demand side disruption. So there are supply side disruptions in the world where you come up with a new technology. Website travel agencies came, aggregators, and they disrupted the airline business, right? Because airline business had offices before. And then travel agencies came with websites and everything. Oh, they disrupted because, that's supply side. So the innovation was on the supply side. We will have a demand side generation. And when demand side generation happens, or another one is like digital cameras. Digital camera is a supply side generation. Like there was Kodak analog, and then digital came, it was superior, people adopted. We will go through a massive demand side generation, which is much more powerful than supply side disruption. And customers will prefer and overly prefer any digital experience over physical experiences in most of the cases because it will be so superior.
Does
by
it
that
mean
time.
the death of offline?
No. And that is the, one of the answers, like, absolutely not. There's a huge place for offline in this, but it will change the form, right? And the customers will change. How and why, we can guess, we don't know, but we gotta be ready. And that's why you have to invest for the future. And that's why all the offline needs to develop the omni capabilities. And that's what we are doing for the future. And we can already see this is happening as well. If I look at back to your question about Russian e-commerce, what's going to happen? Tsunami is going to happen. Or in mathematical terms, the exponential growth is going to happen. Or in business terms, hockey stick will happen. We are not there yet. We are not in hockey stick at all. So, we can already see some non-food categories they became online 30-40%. We can already see that, and it's going to grow, and it will continue to grow, right? But after 5 years, when the generation changes, it will jump. And this is going to disrupt so many industries. And, and by that time, what will happen is the industries who did not do supply innovation are going to be very, very prone to disruption by that time if they survive by that time.
Let's see in 5 years, so probably we have to shoot another one and compare what we say now and what will happen there. About you, getting back to you and your management principles, what I'm really curious is for you to define in a few sentences, how would you define your management principles? What you expect from your team and how do you basically manage the people under you?
Yeah, Actually, I work with frameworks. Maybe it's like a little bit, Charlie Munger style, like, so I love frameworks, and we work with frameworks and we document everything. And we call it Magnit OMNI principles, but in reality, they were born in Delivery Club. And I also use some of them in Domino's Pizza. And actually, root of them comes from Procter Gamble. So but I evolved over time because so number one is customer is the boss. I mean, sounds super cliche, but it's very difficult to do. So it's one of them. The second one that my favorite is fail fast, learn a lot, disrupt. So don't be afraid to fail, right? So I mean, it's easy to say and so on. We are in a corporation. Corporations don't like the F word, failure. So we create an environment where it's okay to fail. And actually, we welcome failure as long as you learn from that and you move forward.
Which fail is not okay for you?
I think the repetitive failure in the same issue. It means that you're not learning, then, that's not okay. So because you see, it's not fail fast, right? And it's not fail a lot. It's like fail fast, learn a lot, disrupt. This learn a lot, if the learn a lot part is not happening, it's not okay.
Okay.
It's against the principle. So another one that we have is, I don't know, I can talk about all of them, but be like water. So it's like basically entrepreneurial heart, minds, and professional hands. So you got to be very entrepreneurial. You got to be able to try, but you have to be professional in the way that you work. So another one is bias for tech, nose for business. So we're not tech for tech people. That doesn't work for our business. This is also what I was saying. You need to outsmart the others, and we are more tech for business. But then, we love to solve, the problems in the stores with tech. The picker problem with the tech and so on. We love those solutions because they are really applicable solutions that create impact. Data whispers louder than words. First thing that we do in any business is we fix the database. We fix the DVH. We fix the dashboards. We fix the automation. First level is advanced analytics. Second level is automated decision making and algorithms. And then the data science. So, data is super important in the way that we work.
But still, how many decisions are made based on a gut feeling rather than on a data? Even when the data says it's A, you're doing B.
We take that kind of decisions normally with discussions. So because if the data says something and we want to go other way, and there are cases we do that, right? And I can give you examples of that. But we do that with discussions because that brings me not only to the principles, because principles on their own are not enough.
Yeah.
Because you also need to have a process, because principles don't create the culture. Processes create the culture.
Because it's repetitive thing, right?
Yes, because otherwise principles are propaganda. If I tell you customer is the boss, you will say, okay, so you're a developer,
and so what, right?
Or you're a product manager. You're like, come on, Güvanch is creating propaganda. What are you talking about? But when I take decisions in the meetings where we do the right thing and the hard thing for the customer, okay, over the easy thing, and maybe not so the profitable thing, right? So, we do the right thing for the customer. We pay a cost for that. And when people see that, they start believing, okay, this is the place. Maybe those principles are applied. Or we see a failure and we call a meeting. And now we say, okay, guys, now let's talk about this failure. Okay, who's accountable and what did you learn? So first question is who's accountable? It's not blame culture. It's like who's accountable? There's always one person, the STL, single threaded leader as we call it. So we say, okay, fine. What did you learn? And what we expect from that person's root causing and the learnings. And then when we see the learnings and the root causing, fantastic. Now what do you do next, right? So that's the kind of the things that they need to see. If they see the failure and, we're blaming, I'm calling people and blaming them, they will say, hey, sorry, this is not the fail fast culture. Fail fast culture. This is blame culture, right? So we even joke about it sometimes internally because we call it blame-based motivation sometimes because we call people and say, I want to understand who's responsible, who made that mistake. They come and they are very say, okay, now tell us what you learned, right? So tell us how we move forward. And I think this is the kind of the environment that you want to create. It's not low pressure, it's high pressure. That's why we work with a process, okay? Because you need to give enough autonomy to the people. You cannot be this, they call it this Chaika manager, right? So he goes above, he comes in.
Seagull management, right?
Seagull management. I hate that, okay? So I call it eagle management. Eagle management is when we go deep with 6 pagers and so on, and we adopted most of our management process from Amazon. But we adopted, we didn't fully So we adopted, we do bar raising, we do 6-pagers, But for example, for career, we invented we adopted a system from Procter Gamble, which is extended leadership team and so on.
Mix and match.
It's a mix and match of both. What we didn't like in Amazon culture is too much pressure, no individual, focus, only the winner takes it all.
Yeah.
We didn't like that because we said we want to grow every single person. And we took that part from Procter Gamble.
Too much American.
Yes, maybe, but Procter & Gamble is also American. It's another industry. So we said we will focus much more on internal promotions and internal development versus that. So it's also the management process. So we work with the run change process. We separate the meetings. We work with what we call the meeting matrix. So I have a meeting matrix that everybody knows is public, and it's like 30% on run, 60% on change. And my regular meetings are around 35% on my week. So then I have 10 hours of self-time. And then I have around 5 to 6 hours of interviews and bar raising. Then I have at least 1 or 2 deep dives in a meeting, so that in a week. And then in addition to that, we have ad hoc problem solving so that I can support the teams if they are blocked with something. So we work with this kind of frameworks, meeting metrics, run change, ELT assessment, LT assessment, and so on. And this kind of process in tech environment, again, is not always, well managed. But when people see this process and the principles together, then first they grow, and second, they can see we're taking the hard decision. And that's, I believe, what really works.
Part of your team, they are definitely like twice younger than you, right?
Yeah.
So what does it mean for you, and whether you have to do something special about it, like to manage those 20 years young guys?
I think I learned a lot from my experience when I was in Delivery Club, my first year, where I felt, there was a big disconnect between me and the product and tech team. I call product tech team mostly because they were the ones I struggled the most. But now they are the ones I'm the closest, right? So, and the problem was not with them. The problem was with me. Because I didn't understand the new generation. And because there was clearly a generation gap, and I didn't even want to admit it because, when you are older than other people, you don't want to admit that you're older than other people, right? So, and you think that you know better. I thought I know better. And actually, I was not humble enough, and I was not student enough, and I was arrogant. And once I understood, after our crash, with lots of people leaving, once I understood, okay, now I understand how they think. When I went deeply to the process, the creativity of the process, when I understood the creative part of the process, but still it needs to be a process and still needs to link with the business. And we are very good at this. So, when I started to see that, something clicked for me. I remember, my first month in Delivery Club, I was wearing even shirt to the office, right? So, I'm like, all of a sudden, tada, a big illumination came to me. And actually, it was not, and all my generation complains about the new generation. So, new generation is lazy. New generation does not want to work. The new generation values their work-life balance too much and so on. That's all my generation was talking about. When I look at them, I said but are they the wrong things?
Yeah.
Right? So why work-life balance is a bad thing? Why having a life outside of the office is a bad thing? Why are these are good things. These are good values. I want to have the same. Okay, it's just my generation was exposed to a situation where we couldn't afford.
Yeah.
Right? But if the new generation has this opportunity, why should they not take advantage? And by the way, why should we put so much pressure on the new generation? Mental health is so important. So so we grew up in a generation where we were more resilient. Okay, and new generation is less resilient, and we understand, but that does not mean that we should ignore that. We should support it. And when I understood that with the new generation, I really started to connect with them much better. And actually, I don't feel this gap anymore. I actually feel I feel much more of a gap now between me and my generation. Because sometimes I see how they don't see. Because maybe they didn't go through the experience that I went. And as a result of this, I can click, better than before. I'm not saying that I click all the time, but I can click better than before. And that really, really helps me. And I think that also helps the team.
You're a successful entrepreneur, meaning before joining the Magnit, you definitely was able to run something on your own, run something differently. With all this knowledge from P&G, from Samsung, from Domino's, I bet there were like bunch of people who were able to give you money and say, okay, Güvenc, now build something for us. It will be definitely something great, successful. We'll sell it afterwards and we'll all we'll love it. But for some reason, you have chosen the corporation to join. So explain this reason behind.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said before, and maybe taking this, contrarian decisions. So obviously, I could do my own business, or I could be the CEO of another company, right? So or I could be an entrepreneur. But here's the thing, okay? So my father, when I was 12 years old, he was working in a corporation. He left his job and he did his own business. He opened his own business, and actually it didn't go well. And he lost his savings, and then he had to leave the country at that time to I was born in Libya and came to Turkey after. So I was in North Africa for 10 years, and my father was working there. We came to Turkey. My father closed his own business after being a corporate guy for all these years and trying that, and then he went back. And then when it was a trauma for me. Like, so if you're an entrepreneur, you lose everything. You should never be an entrepreneur. That was a trauma that was set in me. And that's number one. Number two, we didn't have internet in 1995. We didn't have internet in 2000. So it was not like, I have a garage and internet and I can create $1 billion company. I'm very sorry, but that was not available to anyone of my generation.
Yeah.
You know what was available? So you either go to the best of the best corporate and have a good life. Your choices are McKinsey, Procter Gamble, Unilever, choose. Okay. Another option is like you go to the bazaar. Okay. You start your own business. You buy and sell. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but that is intellectually less of a challenging job. And then, by the way, it doesn't seem to be very aspiring. And your chance of being a billionaire is also very low, right? Mm-hmm. Out of that. So these were the options, and it's a different world now. And one of the things I asked my father, very important, is like, hey, why did you do that? Why did you you had no entrepreneurial skills? Why did you open your own business? And then and how do you feel after? I asked this question when I was an adult, and his answer to me was, hey, Güvenc, I wanted to do it so much. Every corporate guy wants to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to do it so much. I had to take it out of my system. I took it out of my system. It's done. Mm-hmm. Meaning I did it. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy because, he went back to corporate. He recovered all the savings. We were back to our life standards. Okay. And during this period, my mom supported us. So I saw that, right? But that's what he told me. He never regretted that experience. And I also want to be an entrepreneur. So I said, I will not regret. So first of all, being in Domino's was like being an entrepreneur. But then what I learned there is I really liked to do that with some backing of some financial capital, right? So, instead of doing my own. And then the second thing I also learned is after I went to Delivery Club, okay? So, which was more 200 billion GMV, much bigger than, and then taking that to 2 billion. And I learned one more thing, which is about myself. I'm really, really good in, there are some people 0 to 1. They create an idea, they love that stuff, right? So, some people like 1 to 10, right? So, 0 to 10 people, they love the idea, the creation, all that. And when this business scales to some level, they get bored. And they give it to the manager, sell the business, do something else. I'm not that guy. So, I'm the guy who takes a business at mid-size or small size in trouble. I love that. It needs to be in trouble. Okay. So it needs to be impossible. And then I have some backing, like some, capital or some resources that I can play with. And then I, fix that and go to, 100 million, 200 million, billion. This is where my strength is. And
troubleshooter.
I'm a troubleshooter. I'm a transformer. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and this is what I do best. But give me a business, give me an idea from zero. I wouldn't, be successful as many entrepreneurs are. So, okay. So, if I am that, it's better to embrace it.
Yeah, sure.
And, work with it. And again, what's my end goal is impact. I can touch 300,000 employees and I can create impact with them. So, and by the way, it's not like I wasn't an entrepreneur. I had to get it out of my system. So in 2012, I invested into, with my sister to a small restaurant. And then this small restaurant turned into something that's successful, and it's handmade burgers, and it's in Turkey. And I became a shareholder for that. And for the last 12 years, they've been developing the chain, and now we have 21 restaurants, and then half of them are franchised, meaning the model is working, and we can export the model now. And it's called Big Baker, and I'm a shareholder, I'm a co-founder, and I worked a lot on that project as well. But I also learned one thing: 12 years, 21 stores. What's my impact?
Yeah.
What's my impact in 12 years? But look at my 12 years in Russia, as working in corporations or working, as Transformer CEO. Where do I make more impact, right? So I didn't stay there. I wanted to expand my impact. I also entered boards. So especially at the end of Delivery Club, where I was like for 6 months, I was in lockup by Yandex. I had to do something, so I decided, how can I create more impact? And I had a lot of people asking my advice about, at the top management level. And this is where my board career also started. So, I became a board advisor for Capital Bank in, Azerbaijan. It's the top bank. It's the Pasha Holding. It's the top holding in Azerbaijan. I became an advisor for Hof. I got involved with Üzüm, and we put a team there. And we co-founded, the food tech team. Now, this food tech team took over the management of marketplace of Üzüm. So Dimitri Benzoruk, and I'm involved. So this kind of also board advisory kind of also I developed in parallel. And in order to just again not to pretend as a 0 to 1 entrepreneur, but focus on what you are. And I think this is very important for all the people at their early careers. Understand who you are, understand what you are good at. Not everybody has to be an entrepreneur. In my time, in 2000, entrepreneur was lowest of the society in my nation. If you say an entrepreneur, it's okay, loser, right? Why? Because the winners go to the corporations, right? So that was 2000. We are now in 2025. Corporate is corporate, right? So entrepreneur, oh cool, he's gonna be the next billionaire. So it's not about what's cool, what's not. It's about who you are.
Yeah, definitely.
And what you are really, really good at. And am I an entrepreneur now? Am I a corporate guy? I don't care about this anymore, because the way that I define myself is I'm a student, and I just try to create impact.
Okay, then the blitz for the end. 2 questions we ask everyone, and the third one especially for you. So the first one is, what makes a great team?
1, united around mission. 2, top talent. But not top talent in terms of the same talent. It's everybody is skilled to do the job that they are supposed to do. So top talent. 3, process of decision making, management. So is it, for example, top-down driven? Is there one narcissistic leader deciding on everything? Or is it more of a, process work, teamwork, and, intellectual superiority? It needs to be very, very clear. So process. 4 is probably the culture or the incentive to help each other, not to compete with each other. So you need to complement each other. And the culture should enable, and incentives should enable that. Because culture is easy to say culture, but culture is an output metric. Everything else is input metric. Process is input metric. Incentive system is input metric. Hiring top A players is input metric. So I think these are the top ones, A players, process, culture, and the mission, why they work together.
What could get someone fired by Guvenc Donmez?
Other than the obvious violations of ethics, probably, repetitive failure, not learning. I'm obsessed about growth. I'm obsessed about my own growth. I can't tolerate people wasting their potential. And wasting your potential means you don't learn from your mistakes. That I can't tolerate. Repetitive mistakes are something not okay. And mistakes are welcome.
How much time would you give me for this repetitive failure before you will fire me?
Probably 2-3 warnings. But we would be very open with you, because we have the culture. One of our principles is brutal honesty. But brutal honesty does not mean it means saying the hard things very openly and directly, because we don't have a lot of one-on-ones. We have a lot of stream meetings and Zoom meetings, and we give feedback very personal. Sometimes it's very personal in the meeting. but everybody knows it's not personal.
Yeah.
And the others also get benefit. So probably 2-3 very clear messages and feedback you will get. And we are feedback culture. So we learned it from P&G. So your calibration, your assessment is not somewhere based on your corridor talk and relationship with some, narcissistic leader. It's much more about your feedback from the others, your results, did you really develop, or did you take on a new responsibility? Did you succeed with that? How did you cope with the failure? Actually, we look at how people cope with the failure much more than how did they cope with the success, because we learn about those people when they cope with the failures. Again, nobody talks about failures, but all my career is number of failures, right? So, you need to look at how people cope with that failure. We would look at how you cope with that failure. And we would look at, did you repeat the same mistake, not learning from this? If you're doing that, you would get a clear feedback, and 2-3 times, and then we will say, look, it's not the right place for you. Because maybe you need to be in another place where, your existing skill sets are okay, and, you're not asked to experiment so much.
And the last one. So many people will be watching this. So those people will be aspiring entrepreneurs, hoping to build a big business in e-commerce here in Russia, probably global. What unconventional advice, rather than just, okay, do this, try, test, learn, would you give them?
I think I will give them probably some contrarian advice. Okay, so the first one is, are you really an entrepreneur? And do you have the skill set? And are you really sure that's the right thing for you? That's probably the first one. Not everybody has to be an entrepreneur. I mean, it's perfect okay to go to a corporation. Look, I started my career in corporation. I was there for 13 years. The level of the training I got was amazing. Okay, they gave me a toolkit, they gave me challenge, they gave me status, money, motivation, teams. I got everything. I love that, right? So it came to a point, it wasn't enough, right? And I wanted to do more because I was developing. So who says everybody has to be an entrepreneur? That's number one. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, okay, and if you have a mission, a clear mission, to either add value or, be rich yourself or create a big company or, bring some technology, then you have to really, really think through that your odds of success statistically is less than 1%. Okay. What does that mean? Recognize this, that you'll fail. Okay, so most likely statistically. But if there's 1% chance that you're going to be successful, you have to create value for other people. That does not exist. And I find, in a lot of the companies that I advise, a lot of entrepreneurs that I advise, a lot of people who wants me to invest into their business and so on, that I find oftentimes, is missing. So it's unclear how they create value in a unique way. Okay, so they come and, for example, now a lot of AI companies, they seek for investment, or AI startups. They go, oh, we're gonna do this with AI. I'm like, okay. My first question is what stops me to copy this and put more money and beat you? And the answer is oftentimes 95% of the time, nothing. So if somebody is gonna outbeat you, outsmart you, or out-invest you, probably you're not doing the right thing. It has to be such a thing that, when you think about it, look, nobody can outbeat me, Nickel. Nobody can outsmart me, because what I'm doing is so unique, and the idea is so unique. It creates value. And, by the time somebody figures this out, it's going to be late for them. And I think this is the kind of the thing, that people should ask for themselves. The more you have this, the more chances of success. The last about inventors, innovators, entrepreneurs, they often underestimate the power of the team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, because you're early in the business, you don't have a lot of cash. And what you want is, you want the cheapest developer. You want the cheapest product guy. Or you want to give some shares to somebody for a company that don't exist. So, and what they totally underestimate is, if you want to do really cool stuff, you start with the cool people. And I would rather give 50% of my company and my idea to the best people rather than hiring the cheapest people for 5%. So, because your chance of creating value with the top people is way higher. I mean, there are so many good examples of that. Just read the biography of Elon Musk and, all his mafia and all. He's not one guy. He's coming from a community and, a group of people, a group of generation. He's not the only one. There was a support network.
That's
so
true.
Go with the top people.
Amazing talk, I would say. Thank you for coming. It may last for 24 hours, but we will not survive at the rate. It was really interesting for me to talk to you. Definitely will repeat it once again, and hopefully not in 5 years' time, as I mentioned, but soon, very soon. And yeah, thank you for coming.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Guys, it was без вот этого вот всего, so we will come back with the next podcast from you, likes and shares on YouTube and VK video. Cheers, bye.